Thank you for joining us once again. Stick around to the end as our last video has an important message. Let's get into it.
This was how the buildings of the old world was powered, harnessing the free energy from the ether above. This is displayed here in a mountain in Saudi Arabia, and in the right conditions, you too can experience the power of the ether at your fingertips. Free and unlimited energy all around us. Yet free and energy are two words that'll never go together for the elites today. There is no profit in combining those two words. It is a big part alone why so much of our past has been deliberately hidden. It's profits over people in today's world. It used to be the exact opposite. Question everything, friends.
Dmitry Mendeleev, the original creator of the periodic table of elements, originally intended for aether to be included in the table. In fact, before the dominance of the irrational world of quantum mechanics, aether theory was believed by the most brilliant scientists of all time, including Isaac Newton, Nikola Tesla, James Clerk Maxwell, and Sir William Crookes. According to these great minds, aether was an all-pervading medium through which light and other electromagnetic waves could propagate. It was envisioned as a medium that fills the vacuum of space, providing a substance through which light and other waves could travel. Aether theory portrayed the universe as a harmonious cosmic symphony. Contrast this with the seemingly dissonant cacophony of quantum theory, which presents a cold and meaningless chaotic universe. Is it possible that physicists were too quick to disregard aether theory and simply replaced it with terms like dark matter?
You know, the ether, the fifth element, that was always thought to be something that was a carrier of light waves and gravity. That was discounted in the late 1800s by the Michelson-Morley experiment. But what's been shown throughout that time between then and now is that scientists have come out and said that experiment's flawed, and there does exist a carrier in gravity. And so none of that made it into the calculations of physics or anything like that in ether, even though scientists say that physics experiment was flawed and there does have to exist something. If we had this better understanding of the ether instead of discounting it, the fifth element, I think we get somewhere with this, at least on the side of science.
From the flying Vimanas to this rocket ship blasting off in the 1500s. There have been many depictions of flying objects found throughout our past, and this is not due to a few artists with overactive imaginations. Throughout many centuries, they depicted exactly what they saw, much like the hordes of flying griffin, an animal we're told is nothing more than mythological. The same winged beast that can be found on the Tartarians' flag. They want us unaware. A population that doesn't know its true history is the easiest to control. Learn the true past, research the mud flood and fall of Tartaria. And remember, history is nothing more than a set of lies agreed upon. Question everything, friends. Until next time.
Generator that runs on water, aka Brown's gas or BG. Plug in before we run out of gas from the previous run. Can't start generator with stuff plugged in. There's 79 volts DC running through our machine. And we've got 18 amps. Voltage rise. 84 volts DC. The pressure has risen. Fact, BG has 3 times higher energy potential than hydrogen alone. Thanks for all the support. Change the world. Oh, and happy holidays, everybody.
He was just visiting the zoo when he sees this. A man was visiting a zoo in Onesti, Romania, when he stumbled across a hidden animal exhibit.
누나
What looks like a humanoid creature can be seen caged up and concealed in a small dark building surrounded by security guards. The zoo was closed shortly after as it failed to comply with the new animal welfare regulations, and many animals were mistreated. However, some people believe this is part of a cover-up, and they were indeed doing some sort of humanoid experiments in the facility. But let me know what you
ask out, is there a heaven? And it knocks 3 times, meaning no. And at that point, our 2 religious friends that were there immediately jumped up and said, we have to leave right now.
We had no idea why.
Why? What's going on? I'll tell you in the car, dude, just don't look back, let's go, let's leave. And so we walked out, we left, we got all the way to the car without anyone saying anything. And as soon as we got in the car, we're like, what's going on? Why do we have to leave? He's like, well, in the Christian religion, anything demonic or evil is supposed to basically disprove that there is a heaven in order, And so what they were saying is we don't think this is some spirit or something paranormal there. We think it was something that was trying to lead you away from heaven or Christianity.
Demonic territory type thing. But that also just depends on what you believe in. Obviously, our roommates were very, very Christian, very religious, and so when they heard the knock saying no, they thought it was just kind of a sign from a demon to steer us away from God, saying this does not exist. And so they without question ran before we could even, we kind of were wanting to stay there to ask more things.
It was really interesting.
The ether energy. Antenna, amplifier, resonating moderator. You can see they had lamps. Let's enjoy together the beauty of the ether gathering technology of the whole world. Cathedrals are not what they want us to believe. Ether is a gift from God to mankind. Unlimited free safe energy in harmony with nature.
Activation. Connexion. Connexion. Activation.
Nothing new under the sun. Question everything then. Share the truth.
Okay, so this is this month's issue of How It Works, and early into it, you see this thing called the Eye of the Sahara. Now, the measurements of this match up the legendary measurements that Plato listed for Atlantis, and this is in North Africa. It's the only geologic formation like it in the world, and they say that North Africa was much wetter back then, and this is probably what gave birth to Atlantis. Now, the Plato's account is based on a much earlier account from somewhere else. They traditionally put the Atlantis out in the Atlantic Ocean beyond the Pillars of Hercules, but if the person that was writing this was from Northern Europe, the first translation, Plato got his from Egypt, you would have crossed the Pillars of Hercules, which are the Straits of Gibraltar, going south to get to the Eye of the Sahara. So my bet for the inspiration for Plato's Atlantis, I like the Eye of the Sahara.
Atlantis or not, whether it ever existed or whether or not the Richat structure would be the long-lost location, if nothing else, like I said earlier, the Richat structure should be listed on Natural Wonders of the World. And not only that, the very nature of the Sahara Desert, having clear evidence that the ocean blasted over it far more recently than 56 to 66 million years ago, should be a topic that is front and center among researchers, scientists, climate scientists, and everybody. Geologists, this is significant. So I know some people will dismiss the possibility of Atlantis and ridicule the Richat theory. Great. But we need to talk about the science aspect of this and what the heck happened to the Sahara Desert.
I myself believe that the Eye of the Sahara could be the lost city of Atlantis. It just matches Plato's description too.
so much that points to that possibly being Atlantis.
Let's do it. To people who aren't aware, there's a location in the Western Sahara Desert of Mauritania called the Richat Structure. It's also commonly referred to as the Eye of the Sahara. It's a site that astronauts typically use to reference from space. And what's so spectacular about this is that it just so happens to match more than a dozen striking similarities to what Plato had described as the lost ancient capital city of Atlantis. Plato had described Atlantis as being the capital, which was said to be made up of concentric circles, 3 of water, 2 of land, which matches the Richat structure. It also was said to have an opening to the sea at the south, and if you look at it from satellite imagery, you can clearly see that water had ran through it. And furthermore, it was said to have mountains to the north, and you just so happen to have mountains called the Atlas mountain chain, which Atlas was said to be the very first king of Atlantis. It's another striking similarity, but it goes further than that. Like, there's geological similarities, such as the fact that Atlantis was said to be made up of red, black, and white color stone, which is another similarity you see at the Richat structure.
And now you can be a hero too, by purchasing a residence in a Vault-Tec vault today.
Okay, let's give it a call. That was horrific. What do I even say? What just happened? Did you stop recording?
Nope.
What was that the right number?
Why is no one talking about us potentially switching timelines? This is part 2 of the series. Now, all of y'all remember Toy Story, right? 1 second. When you pull Woody's string, he says, "There's a snake in my boot," right? Well, now it's strangely, there's a snake in my boots.
All I can do is...
That doesn't even make sense. And this man supposedly caught the timeline shifting on camera.
This just creeps me out, man. I don't even like to be in this room anymore. When I sleep in here, you look at that. That shit is changing. It is changing.
Now, here's a crazy one. When you think of Abraham Lincoln, you think of a guy with a tall hat, right? Where are all the images of him with hats? He has no hats in none of his pictures. Where did it go? I thought I was crazy, but weird things are happening right before our eyes. Have you ever watched the SpongeBob movie? You know the Goofy Goober song? I distinctly remember SpongeBob having a white guitar. Now all of a sudden it's a peanut? I can't be the only one tripping about this. Also, does anybody remember popsicles? You know how they used to have all of our favorite cartoon characters? Well, I distinctly remember there being a Boots popsicle with the messed up bubblegum eyes and all. But guess what? Apparently it never existed. I remember eating it. Like this video if I should do a part 3.
And by putting electrodes and salt into simple well water,
gas comes out of your water.
Hydrogen gas, which Lorenzen mass produces in this device.
Yeah.
Since John's 1981 pickup was converted to run on gasoline and hydrogen, his mileage has doubled, 40 miles per. For years now, when they've been in the neighborhood, experts in the energy field have been dropping in on John's farm.
They come from all over. I'm going to have to lock the gate pretty soon.
Well, John Lorenzen is a very clever fellow. The things that he's doing are actually well known, and many other people could do it. It's just a matter of society deciding it wants to go this route.
So a lot of people are wondering what the map looks like that I found in my encyclopedia. So let's find out. So I have 4 books in this collection of Funk and Wagnall's standard reference encyclopedias. This is the first one that I have gotten to look at. This was, I think, last touched in 1966. So let's get into the map. So, as you can see, this is, you know, the North Pole. And all around it is, you guessed it, Antarctica. This map has the North Pole as the mathematical center. From it, true distance to any part of the world can be measured. Such a projection shows to advantage the great circle routes used in navigation which pass near the Arctic Circle. Polar projection maps are indispensable to a global-minded nation. So this is the World Mercator projection and all of its times. So a couple of things on this map that didn't make sense to me was that Antarctica was not labeled on here at all, but we know that the bottom is Antarctica because this is the Antarctic Circle that goes all the way around. So look at Antarctic Circle all the way around, and beyond the Antarctic Circle is Antarctica. If we're doing the world, we should include Antarctica. Why did it stop right here before it at 9? And all of these are not equal distance. This is A, and this is also A. They just overlap. So I took this map and I cut it up and I marked down the lines of the Arctic Circle, the equator, and the Antarctic Circle. Let's put this together. So you can see that A and Z are practically the same, you know, they have the same time. So when you put this map together, it looks like the first map that I showed you. And we know that the North Pole is in the middle of the Arctic Circle, which goes around here. All of the times are right, and we are surrounded by the Antarctica. There's tons of different information in these books, so let me know if there's anything else that you might want me to go over.
We all know the Earth is actually... Oh, okay, no, we're not doing that. What? Yeah, we're doing this? For real? Why do I have to be that guy? What is beyond the ice wall of Antarctica? Disclaimer, obviously a theory and should be considered for entertainment purposes only. Yes, this is the ridiculous Earth plane theory, or at least a part of it. Now, personally, I think this map is complete bullcrap. There's just countless evidence that goes against it. Before ever even considering a theory, you always need to look for some sort of tangible proof. And these mysterious blue shards reported in a leak from Antarctic Research Labs are a little more revealing. They were leaked by this helicopter engineer who was contracted to work at McMurdo Station in Antarctica from 1997 to the year 2000. And if you don't know, McMurdo Station is usually where shit goes down. So this engineer, let's call him Jimmy Boy, claimed that he befriended a few of the scientists doing research there in 1998. The scientists told him that they had two types of ice they worked with down there. There was this ice that they drilled cores out of boreholes in the ground that was cold to the touch, usually clear or some shade of white, and melted into water. Almost all of Antarctica is covered with this type of ice, which is just normal ice. Clearly, this wasn't their main focus of research. The only times they ever actively study this ice is when film crews from like National Geographic came down to film a documentary. The other 95% of the time, they studied the forbidden sky ice, totally different than the ice that we're used to. Jimmy wasn't allowed in the labs where they studied sky ice because it was, you know, super duper top secret. But one time, one of the scientists he got close with showed him a piece of the ice, and it was unlike any other matter he's ever seen on Earth. First of all, you couldn't touch it with your bare hands and had to wear your heavy-duty South Pole exploration gloves when holding it because of how cold it was. Secondly, as you can tell, it was this solid deep blue color, allegedly composed mainly of oxygen, and is why they called it sky ice. And oh man, I haven't even scratched the surface of how deep this goes. Oxygen has a freezing point of about negative 218 degrees Celsius, which is when it turns into a solid, so you'd practically get frostbite just by looking at it. Jimmy held it for a bit with his gloves, of course, noting that it was lighter than regular ice, almost like he could have thrown it up in the air and it would have floated back down. It was also slightly flexible and completely opaque, so you couldn't see through it at all. And it didn't even melt into water when it got warm, but just continually shrank until it ceased to exist, likely turning directly into oxygen gas. Which is why they had to study it in Antarctica. They couldn't even transport it to anywhere in the world before it disappeared. The Russians knew about this too, and it's part of the reason they all have research stations down there. After 15 minutes or so, the sky ice was almost completely gone, and Jimmy asks his research friend where they even get this ice from. And this is where it gets interesting. Because to that, the scientist replied, they get it from the wall. According to him, if you you go deep enough, hundreds of kilometers inland from the coast, you'll run into a huge wall in Antarctica that contains this sky ice, the biggest natural structure in the world. This sounds a lot like the infamous ice wall from the pancake Earth theory, which states there's a giant wall of ice that surrounds our entire planet, and there's even more land beyond this wall if you somehow manage to get past it, including the legendary lands of Atlantis, Mu, the Garden of Eden, and even Asgard. Obviously just an incredible stretch of a theory, but interesting to see the ice wall mentioned in a scientific setting here. Now, buckle in, cause this is where it actually gets insane, in case you felt like it wasn't already. The US has known about this sky ice for decades, and back in the 60s, they actually tried boring a tunnel through the ice wall. They built a special boring machine made for the super cold temperatures of the sky ice wall and started digging. For the first 2 miles or so, the floor was solid rock, but after that, even the ground under them became the bright blue sky ice, until they got about 5 to 10 miles deep after an entire year of boring, which is pretty damn far and still no sight of the other side. When they realized the tunnel was shrinking and eventually got so small that they could barely even move their machine anymore. Turns out sky ice, when exposed to warmer temperatures, just dissipates into thin air, but in colder temperatures, like inside the tunnel, it regenerates itself. Eventually, the tunnel got so tight it became too difficult to continue boring, so they scrapped the project, ditched the machine, and after many decades, the hole they dug into the wall has now been completely sealed. Now, some people say this sky ice wall sounds almost exactly like what would be called the dome or the firmament in the horizontal earth, or at least fragments of it, and even the most popular book in the world had something to say about it. Ezekiel 1:26 reads, "And above the firmament that was over their heads was the likeness of a throne, as the appearance of a sapphire stone." Now, whether you believe in the Bible or not, we can all agree it is by definition a historic text. Text that was written sometime in history. Firmament over their heads? Appearance of a sapphire stone? I mean, I really don't want to believe this is true, and who knows, maybe this entire sky ice Antarctica story is just completely made up, but as always, what if?
You guys know who Billy Carson is? If you're open to listening to a different perspective on reality, he's definitely someone you can probably learn some things from. Next Move Revolution. Run that video, comment below.
There's 190 million Americans. 190 million. Imagine if, now out of that, all of them don't have jobs, right? Let's just say 90 million working Americans that are actually on the streets, free to move around. Let's just say out of the 90 million, 40 million say, you know what, we're not going to pay the mortgage payments and the taxes anymore. Matter of fact, we've been collaborating, and we've saved up for a month or two. We don't need any gas or food for a month or two, so we're not even going to go shopping. We're not going to get on public transportation. We're not going to use our cars. We're done. We're going to take 2 months off. You know that thing you did to us with the global pandemic when you shut everything off? Well, we're going to shut everything off now. Except we won't turn it back on until you negotiate a better deal with us. Because you work for us. We don't work for you. You are our servants. That's what the government is. Your servants. But you got it where they're telling you everything you can and can't do. And you're afraid of them. What if we turned off the planet collectively? I said, you know what? We're done. Talk to us when you send a representative that we approve of, and we'll start the negotiation process on how we might turn things back on when we're ready under the right conditions suitable for us. And watch them start shaking in their pants. Watch these elites start panicking when the cash flow stops moving. You see? We don't think like that. We think like, man, well, if I participate, but Sally doesn't, then I'm gonna be stuck, and I'm not. We know that these techniques work because look at Hollywood. Hollywood been on strike. No writers, no actors, no actors guild, nothing. There's a drought out there. I was just in Hollywood filming my TV series through an independent producer. Everything is shut down. Why? Because they got together and said, you know what? We're not going to allow them to use our image in this AI movie software without paying us. If they're going to use my image in the AI software to do a movie, then we got to get paid royalties on it. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to bump them and use AI to take away the acting jobs, but using their faces. But they got together and said, nah, that ain't going to happen. You see? That's just a small scale. Now expand that to the big scale. Why can't we do that? Why haven't we done that? I guarantee you 1 month of no revenue moving through this country and everybody going to request their money out of the banks will shut down everything. And then you say, you want us to turn back on? Well, we got to get the technology. Bring us the technology, man. And then, by the way, while you're doing that, while you're bringing out all this great AI stuff and all this cool tech you got coming out to take away all of our jobs, yeah, we're going to take away our debt too. You're going to erase all the debt, mortgage payments down to zero. Take it all away. Take it away. I'm a single mom, cashier. Oh, my job's gone? Okay, well, the bills got to be gone too. Take away the bills. You're not taking them away? Oh, we're not gonna continue. We're gonna sit back down and wait. We'll just wait. You see? But that takes courage. That takes unity. That takes collaboration. And that takes planning. Things that they don't believe we're capable of doing with each other. Because since time immemorial, they have literally programmed us to be each other's enemy. And we've fallen for it nonstop. People go, man, this guy's talking about you on YouTube. Okay. Is that supposed to make me jump on YouTube and attack him? Is that what that's supposed to do? Is that supposed to make me run and go, hey, I gotta get on here and I gotta attack these people? My mind is on another dimension. I'm not falling for these tricks, man. Tricks are for kids. Tricks are for kids, man. I'm not falling for these tricks out here. We got to do better, man. We have to convert this unconscious community away from the direction it's going in. It's going in a bad direction right now.
That last one is very important. If people would remember who works for who and collectively act, it could just be the change the country needs. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe to the channel. I'm going to throw one more in here just for funsies. Until next time, keep your mind open.
It has 5 toes, but isn't your foot. My foot. Oh, we're not editing that out. What do you call an old snowman? A glass of water. Which one is faster? Hot or cold? Hot, because you can catch a cold. Oh, I hate you.